1 month since joining the Cashflow 101 system.
Time for yet another adventure with HiddenIncaTours.com. Today we're in the highlands of Peru at a site called Wadi, which was built by the Wadi civilization a little more than 1,500 years ago, and the Wadi disappeared or collapsed about 1,000 years ago. So you can see it's pretty crude. Clay mortar, pretty consistent, relatively primitive, much more primitive than the Inca. But then we stumble across this that was excavated. That's a basalt slab weighing between 10 and 20 tons, and clearly was not done by the Wadi people, but that's not the only evidence. Again, as we walk through the main Wadi site, this was the capital of the Wadi people, and more than 1,000 hectares. We see irregularities here now in the stones. You see the slabs, rough, and then cut out cubes. Very intriguing. And then we stumble across these, which appear to be irrigation pipes of some kind. Notice the beautifully drilled holes, and this is in basalt stone, which is very hard, once again. So this is clearly evidence of lost ancient high technology that the Wadi discovered when they found this ancient location. And here again, we walk through and we see what appear to be plumbing or irrigation pipe sections that all fitted together at one point. The actual true location of these was elsewhere on the site, but they've been piled here us to observe them quite closely. So again, we have the rough work done by the Wadi people, and then much more sophisticated work that clearly was done prior, because the Spanish conquistadors couldn't achieve this, and almost all of the ancient sites of the indigenous people were forced to be abandoned. Now here again, you see the rough walls, but then the beautifully cut slabs on the bottom. Very different style of construction. Appear to have been cut with some kind of saw, and then when you look at the staircase on the left, you see how crude it is. So obviously the Wadi people discovered an ancient site built using some kinds of high technology in the very distant past.
Not too bad.
Said, the site is very extensive.
I'm up like a couple of $100. I ain't up no rack yet. I need to get a whole rack on that.
Population is believed during the Wadi period to have been possibly as much as 30,000 people. This location near Ayacucho in the highlands of Peru. We're going to see possibly an even more obvious example of ancient high technology.
I'm not even up a couple $100. I'm up $109. I gotta invest more though. All my shit is down right now. All my stocks are down. Fucking Dix is down. Walmart, Pfizer, GE. That Virgin Galactic, that shit ain't coming back, y'all. I might sell that shit off if it levels out again, because Virgin Galactic got grounded for some kind of shit. They're not gonna be doing anything for a minute.
Of the hard stone in the Inca language known as Quechua, properly known as Runasimi, is the artifact that we're going to be studying more closely. Again, notice the very rough walls made of broken stacked stone. And these basalt slabs.
Yeah, hey, when it does crash, that's when I'll buy up some stocks again. They say Elon Musk about to start up a new project. Whatever that shit is, man, I need to get some shares in that, or at least the companies that are going to be working with his ass.
Was only developed, as far as we know, in the 19th century AD. So how these ancient artifacts were cut remain a mystery. But that's why we travel so extensively, not only in Peru and Bolivia, but other locations on the planet, in order to be able to show you artifacts such as this.
Everything gonna be on sale.
Now we're gonna move in closer.
Buy that bitch up too. Yo, Walmart said they're really trying to compete with fucking they're really gonna try to compete with fucking Amazon and start doing like more online sales and allowing third parties to sell directly from Walmart.com. So they're about to like ramp up their fucking efforts before Google knock Walmart the fuck out. So I probably buy a share of Walmart stock every week, yo. At least one share for a couple weeks. The Walton family say, Bezos, we been here first. You ain't about to take our claim to fame. Cause Walmart was for everything. Now Amazon for everything. My ties. I know that's right. But shit ain't going good, man. And Biden just signed that bill to fucking forcefully vaccinate federal workers. Yo, this shit about to fuck up a lot of businesses, yo. A lot of people gonna quit. A lot of companies ain't gonna be able to fucking function for a minute until they can evaluate their staff and either get their staff to go along with the mandate or start a rapid hiring program for new fully vaccinated employees. Yeah, if my job tells me it's mandatory to be vaccinated to work there, I'm like, well, that's my 2-week notice. Yeah, nah, I'll just go ahead and put my notice in. I don't think I'll be taking that vaccine. If I do take it, it'll be because my own choice, not because you telling me I gotta take it. I don't want to do that route. Don't want to go that route. That's what I'm saying. I've been at work the whole time. Shit ain't gonna change, man. Motherfuckers going crazy over this shit. And my biggest fear is this shit gonna just keep getting worse, man. Shit's just gonna keep getting worse. All right, since we got this right here done, go ahead and take that off the easel. Another masterpiece. So my man who had this piece done, he said he don't want it right now. He said just hold on to it. He say he gonna get another one done. Yeah, fuck that. I ain't never, like, beyond, being a child and against my will or not knowing, like, in elementary school, getting your shots for school and all that, yeah. But as an adult, like, nah, I ain't vaccinated against shit, yeah. I ain't never got no flu vaccine or no whatever vaccine. But yeah, so my man said he definitely wants another painting. The only thing is he doesn't know exactly what he wants yet. So he was like, yo, just hold on to that. I'm gonna hit you up in a little while to do another painting and then send both of them together. So that is what it is. Like I said, I'll take this down, set it to the side, and start on something else. I'm gonna have to shoot out in a little while. I got the dog at the groomers getting shampooed and trimmed and all that shit. Kinda, but not really saving on shipping because it goes by the weight. And even if he gets a smaller canvas, if he wants his next one to be smaller than this one, if they package them together, it'll still have to be in a bigger box to fit this canvas. So he's just gonna save like on a box because they still have to be packaged before they go into the box. So you're not saving on packaging. And then you probably have to get a bigger box for both of them to fit in there. It's weird. I would have just got the shit now and then got me sent the other one later, yo. But hey, the customer's always right, bro. You want to hold off and want me ship these shits together? Now I don't work at UPS. I'm gonna hand these shits over to UPS and they gonna charge me whatever for shipping. So I don't know how they gonna ship it. They might ship it like in two separate boxes, but just at the same time, you know. But if they can put both of them in one box, then it's gonna weigh more, and then that's gonna like still affect the price. It's not gonna. I mean, still gonna have the weight of two paintings. But hey, to each their own. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I would have done it. But I ain't paying for this shit, so it don't matter how I would have did it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't paying for that shit. Alright, boom. That's done. Let's back to this one. Bada bing, bada bow, bada bang. And this is dry enough to paint. I need my paint. Fuck that. Alright, so this is dry enough to paint. Show now. What I'm gonna have to do is clean off a fucking palette. My God, I hate doing this part. And there's so much white paint on there. Damn, I'm gonna have to try to save that white. That's a lot of white paint, yeah. We'll see if we can salvage that part. Oy. All right. Any news? Oh, so I only worked for 4.5 hours this morning at work because I have to go to work tomorrow on Saturday. we're having a children's career fair at my job. So we set up all these booths and stuff and have different professional people from the community come to our center and talk to the kids about what careers are possible for them, what options are out there, what jobs they never knew existed, or the jobs that they know about. You like learn more details about it, even as a kid, like on a day-to-day basis, what does a firefighter do, or a fireman, or what does a doctor do on a day-to-day basis, or what does an artist do on a day-to-day basis. And so we have like games and activities and prizes, and there's like a kiddie store where you can win like tickets and whatever, and then you go into the store and you can shop and buy different toys and information. We have a lot of toys, a lot of arts and crafts stuff, and like games and stuff, but like informative games. But then, what else is there gonna be? Oh, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put up like a giant piece of paper, and then have the kids help me make a mural on it. Damn, it made you do the whole weekly report by yourself, bro. I hope that shit in your pay grade, cause my job be getting me to do shit like this mural that I did. You know what I'm saying? It was weird how they tried to pay me. I'm like, no, it's not gonna work like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not in my job description. You trying to hire me for some totally different shit. And so I got another mural I need to do, and it's the same thing. Like, no. I definitely am gonna need a different pay rate, because you're not gonna pay me my regular hours to do fucking giant ass art projects. It's a difference. So long as that shit is in your pay rate, hey man, more power to you. But yeah, I can only get like so many hours a week. Like literally, there is no overtime at my job, so everybody can only, your hours are set, you know. And so since I have to put in so many hours tomorrow, that means I had to either take off hours from today or take off hours from Monday. And I could have did it on Monday, which would have gave me like a normal weekend, because I would have still had 2 days off back to back. I could have been able to have like Sunday and Monday to myself. But this way I only had like this afternoon, and then I'll have Sunday. But I did it like this because I had to take the dog to the groomers today, so that worked out. But I am tired as fuck, yo. I can go to sleep right now if I wanted to, yo. I was kind of sick yesterday. Wasn't feeling good. I tried to get a lot of sleep. I got up feeling okay. And then I did a lot of fucking manual labor at work today. And then I came home and then I cut my grass. Fucking tired. They say I'm on salary. So everything is in your pay grade. You gonna do whatever we ask you to do, man. drinking this shit. I'm about to get drunk. I feel you, bro. It's about that time. Where you gonna be sipping on this evening? He said for no reason. Well, it's Friday. That's always a reason to get drunk, man. Shit, Friday is a good enough reason to go drink. We made it through another week. So I'm about to have some Reds and Corona. I can't get drunk off of beer no more. I just pissed too much, bro. If I drink 2 beers, I'm peeing all night. I gotta go straight to the shots, man. Get that shit hard and fast, man. Give me some of them spirits. I don't need any mead. L. Who's drinking mead in L? I want some spirits. All right. All right, that's about as clean as it's gonna get right now. Not that new shipment of cigars. Shit, I had me a good cigar the other day. My homie came through with some. All right.
Basalt slabs. You can see there seems to be some kind of catastrophic damage to them. That may have happened during the Great Cataclysm 12,000 years ago, but that's just a supposition at this point. Very clear that this work was not done by the possibly Bronze Age Wadi people, and they wouldn't have had that many bronze tools to start with. So again, you see the very rough work and then the very refined work. And this is typical of many of the ancient locations in the highlands of Peru. In a future video is another site located relatively close by to Wadi. It's called Vilcas Waman. And it again, prolific in origin, but then reconstruction was done by the Inca people. This stone again is basalt. See the incredible flat surfaces that again could not have been achieved by the Inca people, or Bronze Age people. Also another part of the location. See now, this is a church that prior to being a church was an Inca temple, and prior to being an Inca temple, it was a megalithic construction. I go into great detail about that one in the next video. Upcoming tours at hiddenincatours.com.
Alright. Let me see if I can load up this pallet.
Anyone who knows me. Months ago, a full month after the presidential election, Joe Biden assured the American people that he did not support a federal vaccine mandate for COVID-19.
Mandatory? No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power. Just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide. I'll do everything in my power as President of the United States to encourage people to do the right thing, and when they do it, demonstrate that it matters.
Clear enough. But because his word is completely worthless, Joe Biden did a 180 and is demanding now that 100 million Americans give up their freedom and take the Fauci ouchie. And he did so in the most super villainy language possible.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you. So tonight, I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week. We've been patient. Patience is wearing thin. Refusal has cost all of us.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. This is about Joe Biden's patience wearing thin. Well, I've got two words for Joe Biden, and they're not Mr. President. I do not presume to speak for the American people, but speaking just for us here at the Daily Wire, we will not comply. Joe Biden can go pound sand. We will pursue every legal option available to us to ignore this incoherent and un-American edict from on high. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. My favorite comment yesterday is from How Dare You? Comment is, the only thing Biden has built back better is the Taliban. That's true. It's not totally fair, though. He's also built back the Haqqani network. He's also built back ISIS. He's built so a few more things, okay, just in the spirit of fairness. Joe Biden's speech yesterday was the most vicious, divisive speech I have ever heard from an American president about his fellow Americans. It began, well, you heard a little touch of it earlier. It began with this idea of Joe's patience wearing thin. Look, he's a crotchety old man. His patience wears thin. He's not old slap happy Joe like he used to be. And so he opens up the speech vilifying Americans who, for whatever reason, in their prudential judgment, decided that they didn't want to get the experimental drug for the Wuhan cough.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, though the vaccine is safe and free. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It's caused by the fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations, we still have nearly 80 million Americans who have failed to get the shot. The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer. And a distinct minority of Americans, supported by a distinct minority of elected officials, are keeping us from turning the corner. We cannot allow these actions to stand in the way of protecting the large majority of Americans who have done their part, want to get back to life as normal.
So 80 million Americans who refuse to take the experimental jab for the virus that for most people is just a mild cold, they are destroying the country. They are the reason people can't get cancer treatments. Lockdown. You know, remember the lockdown, the various lockdowns that we've been in that actually prevented people from getting cancer treatments? No, it's not that. It's the unvaccinated. Because this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I don't think that Joe Biden would have given this speech, this vicious speech, if the number had been 160 million. You've done that because then you would have had half of the country not having been vaccinated, and he doesn't want to risk that kind of political capital castigating half of the country. He only wants to wait until it's a distinct minority. Then he can go out and demagogue. So he licks his finger, he puts it in the air, he figures out which...
How would you like to know the intelligence operative and Navy SEAL secret for defending yourself against young punks who might want to attack you from lawless rioters and looters?
The wind is blowing, and his word is worthless, so when he says there won't be a mandate, that's just a lie. So he comes out and he says, okay, the unvaccinated, they're awful people, they're evil, awful, terrible people, they're killing the good vaccinated Americans, but vaccinated Americans are not at risk.
I know there's a lot of confusion and misinformation, but the world's leading scientists confirm, fully vaccinated, your risk of severe illness from COVID-19 is very low. In fact, based on available data from the summer, only 1 out of every 160,000 fully vaccinated Americans was hospitalized for COVID per day. For the vast majority of you, who've gotten vaccinated. I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. I understand the anxiety about getting a breakthrough case. But as the science makes clear, if you're fully vaccinated, you're highly protected from severe illness, even if you get COVID-19. In fact, recent data indicates there is only one confirmed positive case per 5,000 fully vaccinated Americans per day. Safe as possible.
Help me out here. Maybe I'm a little bit slow. Maybe I just don't understand this. Joe Biden is saying that there are a lot of Americans who are angry at the unvaccinated because they have anxiety that they could get a breakthrough case and face the serious complications of coronavirus. And he understands that anger. Frankly, he's stoking that anger in this speech. But the vaccinated Americans are at statistically no risk of coronavirus from the unvaccinated Americans. Right? He's saying the science is clear, you're not at risk. You have an infinitesimally small chance of getting a breakthrough case and certainly of suffering any serious consequences from it. So then why do you understand the anger? Why do you understand the frustration? They shouldn't be angry and they shouldn't be frustrated because they're not at risk. Because the people who don't want to take the Fauci ouchie for whatever reason, maybe because you schmucks have been lying to us for the past year and a half, maybe they have a justification for that.
The Fauci ouchie, I can't get over
Maybe
that.
they've got some prudential judgment. And as you admit, they don't pose any threat to the vaccinated people. But he continues to demagogue anyway. Because they don't pose any threat at all, but because of the massive threat they pose, we're going to make 100 million people take the shot. And I know this is crazy. Look, I'm not an epidemiologist. But why is the focus entirely on a vaccine when we're being told that the vaccines, they do work, they're so wonderful, they're the greatest vaccines ever, but also they don't really work and they don't really stop the spread, and you need a booster 2 months after you get your original series of vaccines. If there's so many questions about the vaccines, why not focus on treatments?
We're increasing the availability of new medicines recommended by real doctors, not conspiracy theorists. The monoclonal antibody treatments shown to reduce the risk of hospitalization by up to 70% for unvaccinated people at risk of developing severe disease. We've already distributed 1.4 million courses of these treatments to save lives and reduce the strain on hospitals.
Hold on.
All right, well, I'll go get her. Yep. All right, so the dog is ready to come from the groomers. I kind of knew that was going to happen. That's why I was kind of reluctant to start streaming, because I knew I had to go pick the fucking dog up. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to end the stream, so I'll be back in like 20 minutes probably. I'll be back, because I am going to paint for a couple hours, at least an hour. So I'll at you in a second, homie. Oh. Alright. Back from picking up the dog. My dog barks so much in public. Like, the groomer said she has to get muzzled while she's in there getting groomed because she won't stop fucking barking. I said, I don't blame her. That's a barking ass fucking dog. Alright. So I got my palette set up. But running that errand real quick got me like, I gotta decompress for a minute. Just hate traffic, yeah. When I drive, if I'm a couple of meters away from a yellow light, I'm blowing through that bitch, yo. A yellow, I'm hitting the gas. Woo, I'm about to make this light, yo. Every fucking light, there's somebody in front of me and they're just like, the light's yellow, I better hard brake. Like, bitch, what are you braking for? Both of us could have made it through that fucking light. You fucking dumb dits. Alright. My damn bottle of motherfucking Yukon almost gone. I had this shit for like 2 months though. I know I've had it longer than a month. Almost 2 months. I'm trying to see how long it take me to drink this whole shit by myself. My girl helped drink a little bit, and then at the studio tour, I gave out a round of shots of snake bites. But for the most part, I've drunk that whole bottle by myself. But once again, it's been like, if it's not 2 months, it's almost. I'm pretty sure I haven't bought a bottle of that shit in like almost 2 months. I nip at it little by little, shot by shot. Wow. Alright, one more, and then we got to get some painting done. Or I intend on getting some painting done. I'll probably try to find something on YouTube first, and then get caught on YouTube for an hour. Check my phone for 35 minutes. Because, you know, got to see if anybody's trying to debate me on Facebook. Oh. Damn, that shit kind of fucked my groove up. You know what I'm saying? I was already like ready to paint. Then I had to pause for a minute. Oh, delicious. Okay, picture, painting, palette, brush. Bruh, what brush I'm gonna start with? I need a little brush because I'm gonna start with his eyes. And work my way around. I don't have to be to work until like 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, so I get to sleep in a little late. I might go to the gym in the morning. I had to be to work early this morning, so I didn't go to the gym this morning. I already knew like I was gonna have a hard ass rough morning. I wasn't trying to work out and then go do all that like real workout while I'm at work. Screw that. Shit, what I did at work today was a workout for me. So I said I might go in the morning. But then I might not. All depends on how I feel. And I'm always getting these like rough patches on my palms from lifting weights so much. All right. Let's see.
Second. So what you're telling me is that there are all these questions about the vaccines, and it took a long time to jump through all of the various hoops, and they're not quite as effective as everyone told us they are, and that's why you need new booster shots, and there's still these breakthrough cases, and they're still being transmitted. And you've got 170 to 200 million Americans who have taken that versus 1.7 million Americans who have received the treatment, the therapeutics that reduce the risk by 70%, that are very effective, that you're now calling on them to be more widespread. Why haven't you put any focus on the treatments before? Why are you focused only on this vaccine that has a lot of questions about it, when you could just focus on the therapeutics, which seems much more reliable? Instead of having to jab, shoot up every single American, shut down the economy, you could just treat people who actually have symptoms, who are actually at risk. Why not do that? Fauci has undertaken the strategy from the beginning of his career. This was a big issue when he was dealing with AIDS back in the 1980s. Everybody said, hey, just develop some treatments. He said, no, we've got to focus on the vaccine. He put most of the resources behind the vaccine. We still don't have an AIDS vaccine, and the only way people with AIDS survive is because they take cocktails of therapeutics. Decade and decade and decade of failure, and now this guy, these people are going to lie to us. They're going to vilify all of these Americans, and they're going to upend our constitutional order. One of the most disgusting speeches I've ever seen from a president. Really makes you want to protect yourself and your family. And when you want to do that, I would strongly recommend Ring Alarm. You can protect your home anytime.
Spoke with the victim about those terrifying moments.
Well, police and the victim tell me they want... Police are looking for a man they say held another man at gunpoint in his own home and then robbed him.
They say the gunman even stole the victim's puppy. Fox News' Eric Parrish spoke with the victim about those terrifying moments.
Well, police and the victim tell me they want the man responsible off the street because they believe he could strike again.
recent video as a man is robbed at gunpoint while inside their own home.
Just knew I was gonna die.
This man, grateful to be alive, doesn't want to show his face, but wants to share his story.
I drove down Peachtree. He was walking down Peachtree. He flagged me down. I pulled over. I thought I knew him. But when I realized I didn't, we got into conversation.
It happened last weekend. The man says he was dressed as a woman at the time. Once they got back to his home nearby, they eventually went inside for a drink, and that's when things turned dangerous.
He came out the bathroom, put the gun in my face, told me to get on the ground. So, as I was going to...
Police are... Start your business.
Anti-cut it. No, you have to center it. Okay, center it. Auntie, what kind of rubbish are you on? I like baskets. Give me the knife. No. It's a knife. I can do it. I can't. Okay, let me have this thing. Okay, put it. Are you showing us next? I'm going to be showing you the proper etiquette. Okay? Wow. You see this angle here? Pay attention. P. Club soda, 0.5. Excuse me, may I give it another? Okay, let me just acquisition another test object. Okay. 211 still reserved. Cut the damn can. See, yes, those knives after. Oh shit, that was my iPad. That was my. But you will pay for that later. Don't worry. When you see the invoice for that Apple product, that's me. Don't worry. But you see that? Look, laser sharpness, laser sharp. All you have to do is play the violin. Play the violin. Play the violin. It's simple. It's musical. Give it a try yourself. Oh, wow. Okay, that's enough. Bring the knife. Now, this bear here, if you can cut it, show me. Oh, but this bear here is glass. Okay, if I cut it, it can injure people. Smart man. You are a smart man. You? Okay, now, still reserved. Good. Impressive, sir. Hey.
What the fuck?
Did everybody see that? Of course, this now. This knife is good as fuck. No, you think that knife is good, eh? Yes, check this out. You haven't seen nothing yet. Wait. Go ahead. Hey. Okay, it's not working. Look at the damage done. You see that? Damage done. Okay. You know, but let me show y'all some shit. Oh shit. Let me check this one out. That's 2.0. What's it? No, you do it. Okay, go. You see? That knife is great. This knife is the shit. Me and my niggas about to take off. Yes. You can cut with force, or you can cut it soft. You can cut it soft. Hot damn it, this knife is fire. Okay, now check how I cut this at the perfect angle with no stress. Okay, wait. Are you kidding me? I beg, please help me. Come on, help me. No, my nigga, I'm chilling. Bring your bitch ass here. No, I can do anti-cut.
Yo, what the fuck? This is one of his longest ones I've ever seen, yo.
To center it. Okay, center it. Anti-cut.
This motherfucker funny as shit. Y'all gotta see this video. Alright, I'm about to paint. For real. Alright, enough of that.
Anywhere. I love it, especially when I'm on the road. I go on the road a fair bit, and sweet little Elise and cute little June are in our house. Well, I like to know that we can keep an eye on every square inch of our house. We can know who shows up at the door before we open that door. We can just, it's all centralized, all very simple with Ring Alarm. It's so easy to install, even I can do it. Incredibly inexpensive. It makes a great housewarming gift too, because you'll get credit for a really great gift and you won't have to shell out a ton of money. Go check it out today. Protect your home anytime from anywhere with Ring Alarm. Go to ring.com/Knowles for a special offer on a Ring Alarm security kit today. Build the system that's right for your home. Have it up and running in minutes. That is ring.com/Knowles. Like me, I'm looking at it right now for another relative of mine. Ring.com/Knowles. Mark my words. Right now, in a sterile apartment somewhere off of DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., there is a Bulwark staff writer who's furiously pending the conservative case for federal vaccine mandates for virtually every American through various administrative agencies. I'm telling you right now, I think of the Bulwark or some of these other fake right-wing outlets. They're court jester conservative outlets. They're outlets where they say, I'm a conservative, but I only vote for Democrats and I support the liberal order, right? Their whole purpose is to feign opposition and in so doing legitimize the dominant liberal ruling class. You're going to hear it. Here's the, actually, here's why Joe Biden's speech vilifying 100 million Americans and forcing these new penalties from the federal government on all of these businesses through the various... This is why it's really conservative.
Congress has passed a new bill allowing homeowners to claim $3,627. This plan was passed on the new administration led by President Biden. Biden's COVID-19 relief program includes $10 billion for eligible homeowners to help cope with the pandemic. This will help our homeowners with bills, mortgage payments, home improvements, appliance upgrades, remodels, and other miscellaneous expenses. There is no cost, no obligation to qualify for this program. The stimulus package takes about 2 minutes to see if you qualify. After you qualify, you will receive a relief check in the mail in about
Maybe I shouldn't have put the pretzels on my lap before I try to do all that.
All over the country are pending.
Shit, now I'm dropping my water. Damn it, man.
The stimulus fund is running out and only available online. Make sure you claim your $3,627 today by clicking the link below.
DC liberals make trillions. Now Americans face record inflation, paying more for gas and groceries. A hidden tech.
Really, really conservative. Now, I hear this nonsense, and because Biden is going to push for this, I think it's very important that we be specific on what our problem is here. Okay? Most conservatives that I see right now are saying, I'm not against vaccines. I'm just against vaccine mandates. And I understand why people are saying that. My view is sort of the opposite, though. I'm not against vaccine mandates in principle. I am against this vaccine, specifically mandating this vaccine. I am against. It's kind of the opposite of what the conservatives are saying. But my view is right. So the reason for this is, if you make the argument that we have total bodily autonomy and you have no right to shoot me up with any sort of inoculation, and that's deeply unconstitutional and it violates all of the American tradition and my God-given rights, you're not going to be able to make that case very well. Because for 116 years now, the Supreme Court has held that in some cases, the government can mandate vaccines. There's a case from Jacobson versus Massachusetts, 1905, held that not the federal government, not OSHA, not these bureaucratic agencies, but the states do have the authority to mandate vaccines in certain cases. That case in particular, they were talking about smallpox. George Washington, actually goes back further than 1905, George Washington, 77, mandated inoculations for his troops. More dangerous back then, by the way, than they are today. But he did it to keep them in fighting form. That also was against smallpox. If we try to make the argument that it's deeply un-American to mandate vaccines, we're going to fail because we've had vaccine mandates going back to George Washington. Just at some level, whether it's just to the Army, whether it is at the state level. I think where we will be successful is if we make the particular argument. The particular argument is we've never had a federal vaccine mandate for 100 million plus Americans. We've never had it. We've never had it imposed through the proxy arm of businesses being enforced by OSHA and various federal administrative agencies. We never had that. And, no, you're not allowed to say this, but the coronavirus ain't smallpox, okay? It's much, much, much less deadly. It's much, much, much less serious. And it affects many fewer people, even if you're just looking at various demographics. Smallpox is one of the deadliest epidemics that has ever existed. When there's a smallpox outbreak, people have to take that a little bit more seriously, and it affects everybody. Whereas coronavirus is very unlikely to result in grave injury or death to young people, to healthy people. For older people and for unhealthy people, it can be more dangerous. Okay. I think that the median or the average age of a COVID death is over 82. Okay, this is not the case with people who face serious complications from smallpox, where something like 30% of them are blind. 30% of blindness cases came from smallpox, back when smallpox still existed. It would horribly disfigure people, and it would kill people, too. I think we need to make I've been saying this, actually, a while now, as I made the case in Speechless. I think that conservatives get tripped up when we start making these really generalized, abstract arguments that don't refer to anything in reality, in practice. If you're going to hear people say, you have no right to stop me from engaging in some behavior that might harm me. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. The United States has always claimed that right. We have laws against drugs. We have laws for seatbelts. We have laws against pornography, or we did at least. They're still in the books. They're just not enforced. We do have laws against that. If you make this extreme libertarian case, you're going to fail because it's completely ahistorical. But there's a really strong case to be made that this virus is just not that big a threat compared to other epidemics. This drug is just not that much to be trusted, given how hastily it was developed. These people, this public health agency and administration, are not to be trusted because they've lied to us on occasion and have gotten things wrong, generally. And this federal government is overreaching here if they want to impose a mandate. Maybe for a local or state government, that's one thing. But the federal government, through the bureaucracy, that's another thing entirely. What we're looking at here is not so simple as a matter of freedom versus tyranny. Freedom and tyranny play into this question, but it's not so simple as all that. What this is about is, pardon the expression, a whole new world order, okay? That's an expression that was trending yesterday on Twitter, and it was trending because an Australian politician accidentally let the phrase slip.
To put back in place, especially with reopening and people going back to pubs and stuff, because our exposure sites still, will they be put back in place to be listed once we are reopening? Because they're not at the moment.
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the New World Order. And yes, it will be pubs and clubs and other things if we have a positive case there. Our response may be different if we know that people are fully vaccinated. So we're working through a number of those issues, but we will have to reflect and learn.
The New World Order? I thought this was 15 days to slow the spread. New World Order? Wu flu? The New World Order is a phrase you may have heard before. The New World Order was a term popularized by George H.W. Bush in a couple speeches that are now being suppressed. This was back at the start of the first Iraq War, the Gulf War.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
I don't know about that. Wait, the UN is now going to just go in and kind of run all these different countries? I don't know about that. So when I heard this Australian politician use the phrase New World Order, I said, oh, where have I heard that? Oh, I heard that from George Bush. Let me look up that speech. So I look it up on YouTube, and the speech won't come up. The clip won't come up. Actually, what comes up is some other speeches of George Bush, and then a header, like a little disclaimer that says the New World Order is a conspiracy theory, and it's not real, and it's to totally ignore this. There's nothing to see here. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. You say, wait, what? Nothing says the New World Order is a conspiracy quite like burying the clips of the speech of the New World Order and telling you it doesn't exist, right? That's, yeah, okay. And having the largest corporation on earth do that. Yeah, that assuages my fears. Okay, now but of course that's what this is. I mean, that clip was from September 11th, 1990 and January 16th, 1991. And Bush was talking about the Gulf War. And he's saying, look, what we're going to do now, the Cold War's over, we're going to remake the entire world in America's image. And his son would pursue this path in the second Iraq War and the War on Terror and abolishing tyranny in the world, as he said in the second inaugural. And it was a bit utopian and a bit progressive and quite liberal. And But they really meant it. They really said, there is going to be a world order, and we want to change the world order. And the effect of the coronavirus lockdowns, without question, is that. Without question, I'm not saying it's some sneaky cabal, in the shadows somewhere with space lasers or anything. I'm just saying the effect of these lockdowns is to reorder the way that citizens relate to their nations and the way that nations relate to the rest of the world. That's just without question. I mean, Joe Biden proved it last night by upending the constitutional order and imposing this mandate that one hopes many American businesses will refuse to go along with. We need to protect our most basic rights here. The most basic right is the right to life, which is why I would strongly recommend you go check out 40 Days for Life. Abortion is in the news a lot these days because of this wonderful Texas pro-life law and potentially similar laws around the country. When the topic comes up, as it happens a lot on social media now and in normal interactions, it helps to have good, solid arguments to refute the lies of the abortion industry. Well, there's a new easy book for this. It's called What to Say When, the complete new guide to discussing abortion. It covers traditional arguments, but also my body, my choice, when and how to discuss politics and abortion, forced birth, that's the new thing they're calling it, transgenderism and abortion, shout your abortion. A whole lot has changed since abortion was legalized in 1973. What to Say When equips you with proven approaches from the front lines of 40 Days for Life, which has helped to convert 221 abortion workers. Pretty amazing stuff. Actually, what to say when and not to say when abortion comes up, balance converting hearts with winning arguments. Go on the offense, stay on topic. Go check it out right now. It's a wonderful, invaluable tool. What to Say When, the complete new guide to discussing abortion. How to change hearts and minds and convert hearts in a brave new world. Love that title. Free shipping, 21% off, a signed hardback at 40daysforlife.com/whattosayWhen. Campaign right now for radical liberation. Now, I know this is weird. This is why I'm telling you, when you hear something about the vaccine mandate or any other big public policy, political correctness is like this, wokeness is like this. It's not so simple as saying freedom versus tyranny. Okay, freedom versus censorship or something. Because in many ways, the country is freer, quote unquote, now than it was 50 years ago. We're freer to say naughty words. We're freer to sleep with whomever we want. We're less free to have political speech. We're less free to state basic truths. We're less free to control our own passions and run our own government. But we are more free in some very base, licentious ways. AOC just showed this. She just proved this.
Your medicine helps you live your life, but Democrats want new taxes on prescription drugs. This means fewer new drugs and cures will be developed. Tell Washington, don't tax our health care.
Campaign of radical liberation. She tweeted out in response to a headline that says AOC calls women menstruating people while explaining the female body. She said, not just women. Trans men and non-binary people can also menstruate. Some women also don't menstruate for many reasons, including surviving cancer that required a hysterectomy. What? GOP mad at this are protecting the patriarchal idea that women are most valuable as uterus holders. It's strange phrasing, but she's almost right here in that last part. She's almost right. It's not, you're not a uterus holder. I'm not like a shoulder holder, right? I'm not, my body parts are not my possessions. They're part of me, but I'm splitting hairs, I suppose. What AOC is saying, if she could speak English properly, is that there's a patriarchal idea that women's greatest asset is their ability to conceive and bear children. That's obviously true. It's not just true for women, it's true of all people. The most incredible faculty, the most valuable faculty possessed by human beings, period, is the ability to conceive and produce children. And only women can do that, contrary to popular belief. Not everyone gets to have children. Not every woman gets to have children, okay? We dealt with this a little bit ourselves. I've mentioned this on the show before. Sweet little Elise and I, we're Catholic. We started right away after we got married, and it just didn't happen right away. A lot of people struggle with infertility. It's very painful for a lot of people, okay? Of course, there are other ways to contribute. There are other ways to flourish and have a good life. But it is simply the case that the center of human life is the conception and creation of children. And AOC is devaluing that. She's saying, oh, who cares? Who cares about that? The feminists generally have devalued this. Said, oh, who cares about this miracle that you can create another freaking human being and then raise that person and propagate our species and be fruitful and multiply? Who cares about that? When you can go work in the widget factory. Why would you want to rock the cradle and have the hand that rocks the cradle rule the world when you can go do spreadsheets for some guy in a city or something? Why would you? Oh my gosh, what a horrible life that would be to have a good family. Oh gosh, then you couldn't be single and drunk all the time living in a city doing spreadsheets. It's insane. It's an insane view of society, but it's the consequence of a radical liberation that liberates us not just from certain social mores, but from the bonds of nature itself, such that women are no longer women. Not all women are uterus holders, as she says. Even the moderates are radical on this stuff. Merrick Garland, who was supposed to be the moderate attorney general, he's the one that Mitch McConnell just smacked down when he was up for the Supreme Court and held open Scalia's seat. Garland is now the attorney general. He says that this pro-life law in Texas is clearly unconstitutional.
SB 8 bans nearly all abortions in the state after 6 weeks of pregnancy, before many women even know they are pregnant, and months before a pregnancy is viable. It does so even in cases of rape, sexual abuse, or incest. And it further prohibits any effort to aid the doctors who provide pre-viability abortions or the women who seek them. The act is clearly unconstitutional under long-standing Supreme Court precedent. Those precedents hold, in the words of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that, quote, regardless of whether exceptions are made for particular circumstances, a state may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability.
So he's quoting Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which is not only one of the worst decisions in the history of the United States, but also one of the stupidest. It was written by one of the stupidest justices, Justice Anthony Kennedy, who fancied himself a romantic poet. And in his opinion there, he said that people have a constitutional right to define their own concept of existence. AOC, basically, is what he's saying. He's saying, yes, if you're a man, you can imagine that you're a woman or a unicorn or whatever, because we define our own concept of existence. That's our right. Of course, you don't have that right. I don't. I can define my own concept of existence being a 6'4", 300-pound linebacker. But if I step onto the football field, things are not going to go very well. If that is the view that I'm laboring under, okay? You don't have the right to do that. You actually have the obligation to acknowledge reality. We all have that obligation too. Garland is a moderate. Shows you just how far left, not just the radicals have gone, but the whole liberal ruling class. Think about this. Northam, Governor Blackface. He might not be Governor Blackface. He might have been Governor Ku Klux Klan hood. We're not sure which one he was wearing. Governor Northam in Virginia just tore down the statue of Robert E. Lee. It had stood for 130 years, and he tore it down. There was also a time capsule in there. The time capsule. They don't know what's in it yet. We're going to open that up later. But now there's going to be a new time capsule. Northam says, this monument, this time capsule, reflected Virginia in 1890. It's time to remove both so that our public spaces better reflect who we are, people in 2021. The past 18 months have seen historic change from the pandemic to protests for racial justice that led to the removal of these monuments to a lost cause. It is fitting that we replace the old capsule with the new one that tells that story. Everything's got to change. It's not just that we create new time capsules of where we are now. We've got to get rid of all the old ones, to knock everything down. We've got to just be exactly who we are right now. We don't have any connection to tradition. The new time capsule will be filled with dozens of new items. Black Lives Matter sticker, CDC vax card, State Police at the January 6th insurrection, the January 6th, an expired COVID-19 vaccine vial, an LGBT pride pin, prayer beads from a woman who died of COVID. Prayer, I don't know what they mean by prayer beads. They mean a rosary? It doesn't sound like it. Who knows? A collection of poems from middle school students about COVID, an election officer's badge from 2020, yikes, and a video from an interfaith healing and unity event. any of that represent you? That represent you. Represent me. The generic, the closest would be the prayer beads, I guess. The generic prayer beads to the interfaith healing. No, that is a radical, radical shift. And it's all focused in this very vindictive way on for the conservatives, so they stormed the Capitol, the COVID, the greatest threat, got to change our constitution, or LGBT.
Visit Fenimore Art Museum's new exhibition, Keith Haring, Radiant Vision, on view through October 11th.
You know, I'm growing up, and I've been noticing a few changes from you. You sent me 43 text messages this week.
Pride, BLM, this, that, and the other thing. It's funny, they have two different items to commemorate insurrectionists, right? One is BLM, they're saying we support these insurrectionists, and one is that picture of the cops, and they're saying we oppose those awful insurrectionists that stole Pelosi's lectern or whatever. Does that represent you? It doesn't represent me. It's an unrecognizable country, which we don't need to look in a cap for that. We can see that in yesterday from Joe Biden. Unrecognizable stuff. I'm sure you're well aware. Just want to put not too fine a point on it. Joe Biden is using the federal agency OSHA to force all companies with over 100 employees to either mandate vaccines or test their employees for COVID at least once a week. This is an insane overreach. So in case you weren't listening at the top of the show, we are going to fight that with every single resource at our disposal. We appreciate all of your help joining us as Daily Wire members. If you join right now, you will be giving us the resources we need to take this all the way to the Supreme Court if that's necessary. DailyWire.com/subscribe. Use code DoNotComply at checkout for 25% off. We've been far too willing to cede our way of life to these bureaucrats in the name of public health. So enough is enough. Please stand with us. We appreciate it. We can make a stand, not just for our company, not just for other companies, but for the American citizens generally. This weekend, we remember men and women who lost their lives 20 years ago in the most brutal terror attack America's ever seen. In an extremely important episode of Ben Shapiro's Sunday Special, he sits down with one of the politicians that shouldered much of the burden that was placed on the Bush administration in the aftermath. That would be Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. She was a really terrific guest, so if you haven't had a chance, check it out right now. Go to dailywire.com. You get it on the Daily Wire app, Apple TV, Roku, or Ben's YouTube channel. And don't forget, Daily Wire members get special access to bonus content from these Sunday Special episodes. So do not miss it. Join Daily Wire today. We'll be right back with a lot more. Welcome back to the show. My favorite time of the week right now is the mailbag. You know, before we get to the mailbag, though, I do have to thank everybody because I'd mentioned this on the show that I was very honored to write the introduction to the new 70th anniversary edition of God and Man at Yale by William F. Buckley Jr. This is the book that is widely credited with starting the conservative movement, and it's available now. It's shipping, so I really appreciate everyone who's bought it. I know a lot of you have written in, and if you want to get it, you can get it wherever books are sold. It's God and Man at Yale by William F. Buckley Jr., and you can read a few pages of my writing. I did a book with no words, then I did a book with a lot of words. Now I'm doing a book with still not that many words, but Bill Buckley wrote the rest of the words, so that's very good. First question up from Kirsten. Michael, I had a couple questions for you. You've talked about learning about other religions, so I wondered if you'd ever considered or would consider reading or studying the Book of Mormon. My second question, you often quote Chesterton, but which Chesterton do you quote, GK or AK? I don't know much about either of them, but you seem to speak highly of whichever it is you quote, so it got me wondering. Thank you for all that you do. Oh, thank you very much. I haven't delved deeply into Mormonism. I'm friends with Mormons, and I have read some of the Book of Mormon, especially when I was reverting to the church and, considering all these things. I did read a lot of Protestants. I read some Mormonism. Actually, when I was a kid, I had read a good bit of Islam. I'd read the Quran when I think I was 14. Mostly because the libs kept telling me that this was the religion of peace, and I wanted to read it for myself. I just didn't believe them. Healthy skepticism is always good. So obviously, I was not persuaded by the Book of Mormon, and I ended up, becoming returning to be a mackerel snapping papist. It's always good to investigate these things for oneself and figure out which you find to be most persuasive. As for the Chestertons, I'm referring to G.K. Chesterton. I actually didn't know anything about the other Chesterton until yesterday. A.K. Chesterton, who was a cousin of his or something, was a British fascist politician. And so I'm not referring to him, referring to G.K., who is just a magnificent writer of the 20th century. Or the when was he born? He was born in the 19th century. Anyway, he's just a wonderful, wonderful writer. From Aubrey. Hello, my swarthy host. Hello, Aubrey. How are you? I was out on the town recently and met some new people who were really fun. And yes, some were men. I wasn't out on the prowl, but it's always an option when you're young and single. However, I tend to dress slightly more conservative than other girls, and they tend to get more immediate attention from guys because, let's face it, men are easily distracted. Now, I'm not dressing like a nun, but sometimes I'm a little more subtle about accentuating my assets. You feel? I feel. But I think that immediate attention can lead to conversations and sometimes turn into a more long-term interest. As a man of decent values, who isn't blind, should I dress a little more provocative to get more initial attention and then show them my dazzling personality? Sincerely, a lady in the streets. You should to look beautiful, okay? And so I'm not saying you should put a burqa on. Okay, I'm not saying you should throw a potato sack over yourself. No, you should certainly show off your beautiful qualities, not just emotional, but also physical. But that doesn't mean that you should dress like a trollop, my dear. I'm hearkening back to my single days when I'd go meet the ladies around town. And yes, it's true. If a gal is wearing, dental floss, it will catch your attention, but you will form an opinion about that. You will not look at that woman as though this is going to be the mother of my children. It can happen, but it's not usual. Whereas if you see a gal who is wearing a potato sack, yes, you might not pay attention to her. But if you see a woman who is not dressed like a gal of ill repute, but who is still beautiful, is showing off her beauty in a way that is reasonable, I think that's the course you want to go on. Our society sets up a ton of false dichotomies. We were talking about the false dichotomy earlier between freedom and tyranny or whatever. Liberty and censorship. We also have this false dichotomy of, you've either got to dress like a streetwalker or you've got to, hide yourself in a burqa. But there's a middle ground. You can acknowledge beauty and even accentuate beauty without having it be tawdry. Hope that helps. Ashton, hello, Michael. Following the Texas abortion law, my social media feed has been full of despair and disgust. Example, I read a post comparing a fetus to a tapeworm. What shocks me are these pro-choice individuals or parents themselves. Why do you think there are so many parents out there who are pro-choice? I would think most of them would be pro-life, and this saddens me. I'm married, but no children yet, but these crazy, nutty lefties have changed my mind to be more pro-life than pro-choice. I think a lot of what it comes from is arrogant. And bigotry. Particularly, a lot of these women are saying is, and it's, often I've heard this a lot from liberal white women, is they'll say, look, I would never get an abortion. I would never kill my precious babies, but poor black women, yeah, they should do it. Yeah, that's fine. If poor black women in like bad cities who don't make a lot of money, oh yeah, they should kill all those. Who wants those babies? But I'm just saying, for me, I would never kill my baby. Right, that's one. And then the other line, which, and I think it's important to mention, I haven't mentioned this yet in this iteration of the abortion debate, but an important aspect here too is sometimes they know not what they do. Okay, I know multiple women who have had abortions. I know some women who have had multiple abortions, and some of them came to regret it deeply, and some of them are not even really aware of it. They can't put two and two together. That's the way this fallen world works. You know, for a long time, when I was a teenager, I argued in favor of abortion. I mean, everyone. I don't think I knew a pro-life person. It was so obvious. Oh, these pro-lifers are trying to control women's bodies, and it's not a big deal. It's not really a baby. It's like just a blob of whatever, and you know, whatever. And if you don't look into it more deeply, you might just stay there. I mean, the whole culture is telling you that. So I do think there is some degree of just honest ignorance or an attempt to evade learning more because it will show you a ghastly reality. But that's true. And so if, you know, for a woman who has had an abortion, it can be a very traumatic experience to realize later on what that means, what it was like. And so I think one has to have compassion for these people too. You know, I mean, you can go and have your sins forgiven, but you do have to recognize that it was wrong. You do have to, and that's a very hard. Repentance is a very hard thing because repentance literally means changing your mind, right? It means actually turning around, changing the way that you're seeing things, and that can be very, very disorienting to people. From Emma, hi Michael, I'm a college student at Appalachian State University. The school administration is pursuing for the student body to get vaccinated. As you can probably guess, I do not believe in being forced to receive the vaccine. Being 25 years old, COVID doesn't pose much of a threat to me. All the elderly people are able to receive it. Exactly. The vaccination rate here is more than 50% for students and over 80% for faculty and staff. But I know that they're going to make my life more difficult. It's already difficult for me to wear a mask with my autism. Good point. I don't want to give in and violate my principles. My mom said I wouldn't be rolling over and giving up what I believe in. It would be me being forced into doing it. What do you think? Sincerely, my body, not quite my choice. I'm really glad you brought up the autism aspect here, because people refuse to acknowledge that the masks create problems for some people. The masks create problems for some people with breathing problems, for instance. The masks can create problems for people with autism because it's much, much harder to read facial cues. I mean, you can't just tell the entire population, hey, totally upend your way of life, muzzle yourself, put this filthy cloth over your face all the time, and it'll be totally normal and fine, and there's no big deal, and there's no problem with that. Of course there will be. And then you add on top of this the vaccine mandates. What I would do if I were you, and I've said this before, I don't think that taking this vaccine or not taking this vaccine is necessarily, you know, the arbiter of one's most deeply held beliefs. It might be an expression of deeply held beliefs. And I think the fact that the public health bureaucracy is so callous and so vindictive and so stupid and so dishonest is a very good reason to not trust them on the vaccine. And I don't think that the Biden vaccine mandate is legit. I'm not opposed to it in principle. So what I would do is what we're doing here at the Daily Wire. Do everything you can to avoid it. There are ways to avoid it, okay? They do, you know, hold you down and tie you down and jab the thing. I don't think it's, you know, the end of your life. I think, you know, life will go on. It'll be a horrible infringement, but life will go on. But I would not be willing to give up just yet on this sort of thing. Write into me again if they tell me, you know, you're either taking the shot or you're out of our school. Or that, you know, write into me again. We'll talk then. But I think they're bluffing in many ways. Biden is bluffing in many ways. I don't think they're really going to be able to enforce this. I think he's trying to distract from his failures on Afghanistan. I think he's trying to distract from his failures on the economy, on immigration, frankly, even on coronavirus. So he's trying to have a shiny object over here, rile up the pro-vax people to rile up his base. But I wouldn't fold yet. I wouldn't fold yet. I think they're bluffing. From Ben. Hello, Michael. My home state of Virginia took down the giant statue of Robert E. Lee. Yes, that's true. I saw that. I have mixed feelings. On one hand, the precedent scares me, whose statue is next, and a lot of people consider it erasing history. On the other hand, Lee did wage a war against the United States and committed treason. So shouldn't I celebrate the statue of a traitor coming down? What are your thoughts on the situation? Thanks. Love the show. Oh, would that it were so simple. I wish that it were so simple to say, he's a traitor, he's bad, get rid of him. The American Civil War was a very complex engagement that had been boiling up from the very founding of the country, since before the founding of the country. And politicians tried for decades to stave it off. There were many complex factors that went into it. And then the Union won, And Lincoln declared, with malice toward none, with charity for all, we are going to come back. We're not just going to invade and conquer you and slay all the men and rape all the women and raise all your crops and burn your fields. They said, we're going to come back together and actually live together all as Americans. Confederate soldiers are treated as American veterans for this reason, because we need to come back, because we're going to have a country. Are we going to have a country or not? Is the country going to be the whole country, or are we going to excise half of the country? So I think it's, and by the way, Robert E. Lee was one of the most important figures in bringing the country back together. It's not like he waged a guerrilla, it's not the Taliban. He didn't go wage a guerrilla campaign then for years and years after the war was over. He surrendered and helped to unify the country. So I think the disrespect at him, it won't just stop at him. It's already not. They're tearing down Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln, for that matter. But I think it's wrong even in the particular. I do not think Robert E. Lee deserves to be taken down. I think he's actually one of the more important figures in helping the country to recover. From Colby, dear Mr. Knowles, I'm getting married this month. We're going on our honeymoon to Nashville, Tennessee. Nice. But we're having a hard time nailing down some things to do besides going to Candace's show and visiting a couple historical museums. What do you recommend? P.S. What medium strength cigar do you recommend? Love the show, and as always, your thoughts and insight keep me speechless. Thanks. What do I recommend? Well, a full-scale replica of the Parthenon here with a full statue of Athena. It's like very weird. It's very weird, but you could go check that out. I would go check out some of the plantations. Actually, speaking of the Civil War, some of those are pretty cool. Great Civil War battle sites down in Franklin. Not sure if your wife is totally into that. Franklin itself is this gorgeous little town. Could be very romantic. Go have a glass of wine on a porch somewhere. You can go check out, go hit up a cigar bar. There's actually a lot of cigar bars here. And a good medium-bodied cigar. And especially for the price point, I'd recommend My Father. The stuff My Father makes is really good. And since you're married now, you potentially will become a father very soon. All right. Appreciate everybody. It's been a very trying week, I know, for everybody around here. We appreciate your support. We will keep you posted on our refusal to go along with Joe Biden's stupid plan. If you want to join up right now, help us out, you can do that. Head on over to dailywire.com. Appreciate everyone who's gotten man at Yale. And I appreciate all of you. Things are going to get very, very intense, especially as the 2022 elections come on. I think that's what a lot of this mandate is about. I think that's what a lot of this power grab is about. You're going to see it not just on the public health stuff. You're going to see it on the election integrity bills. Hold firm. Stay strong. Keep the faith. I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show. See you on Monday. The Michael Knowles Show is produced by Ben Davies. Executive producer, Jeremy Bora. Our technical director is Austin Stevens. Supervising producer, Mathis Glover. Production manager, Pavel Vidovsky. Editor and associate producer, Danny D'Amico. Associate producer, Justine Turley. Audio mixer, Mike Coromina. And hair and makeup by Nika Geneva. The Michael Knowles Show is a Daily Wire production. Copyright Daily Wire 2021.
Hey everybody, this is Andrew Klavan, host of The Andrew Klavan Show. You know, some people are depressed because the Republic is collapsing, the end of days is approaching, and the moon's turned to blood. But on The Andrew Klavan Show, that's where the...
Everything I have in my life, I have because I fight.
I have nothing to lose. I got heart. I got a strong mind. I'll be a fighter for the rest of my life.
I'm here because I love it.
I'm gonna try to punch through Anderson Silva's face.
You won't. Hydroxychloroquine. Leave this in. Joe Rogan and his treatment after he contracted COVID is causing a lot of controversy. Obviously, I have no opinion on coronavirus and how to treat it, but I do have opinions on media and how media behaves with regard to particular issues, what biases are in play, what prejudices are at work, and what attitudes they reveal. Let's have a look at ivermectin, COVID solutions, their efficacy, but most importantly, how are these things discussed?
They keep saying I'm taking horse dewormer. I literally got it from a doctor. It's an American company. Mm-hmm. They won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for use in human beings.
Yeah.
And CNN is saying I'm taking horse dewormer.
Yeah. What? So
they must know that that's a lie.
There's a lot of people saying it.
Once again, to be absolutely clear, because this is on YouTube and I don't want any aggravation, I'm not recommending anyone does anything. I really don't feel inclined to or qualified to do anything of that nature. But what happened when Joe Rogan caught coronavirus on tour was he treated himself with a number of things, including ivermectin, monoclonal antibodies, vitamin C IV stuff. You know, like, of course, Joe Rogan is in a fortunate financial position where if he does contract any disease, I imagine, he has access to the best medical treatments available. Of course, what people are querying is whether or not Joe Rogan is vaccinated. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever publicly spoken about that. There are so many issues bundled together around this story. But what I find interesting is the way that Rogan has been treated by what you'd have to call the mainstream media, and their appetite to condemn, and in some ways with particular bias, the course of action that he took. I got some clarity on this issue by reading Matt Taibbi's piece on Substack. He said, the WHO has advised against ivermectin's use pending further studies. There have been randomised studies showing it to be ineffective in speeding recovery, and the drug's original manufacturer, Merck, has said there's no meaningful evidence of efficacy for COVID-19 patients. However, it's also patently untrue, as is frequently asserted, that there's no evidence that the drug might be effective. So it seems that there is some. This past week, for instance, Oxford University announced it was launching a large-scale clinical trial. The study has already recruited more than 5,000 volunteers, and its announcement says what little is known to be true. The small pilot studies show that early administration with ivermectin can reduce viral load and the duration of symptoms in some patients with mild COVID-19. That it's a well-known medicine with a good safety profile, and because of the early promising results in some studies, it's already being widely used to treat COVID-19 in several countries. What interests me about this story is the politicisation of information. Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised by that, because it's something we've witnessed around every single news story for a little while now. It seems there's very little objectivity, little ability to come together in union. Everything is used as an opportunity to score points, either for what is regarded as the left and right, but what some people would argue are kind of false divisions, old-fashioned divisions, out-of-date divisions. Nonetheless, it's difficult to get clarity. With coronavirus, surely whether we're talking about the vaccines or potential treatments, it should just be, there is this problem, coronavirus, and the problem is causing all manner of consequent difficulties as a result of the lockdowns, the controversy. Let's look at the medical treatment as objectively as we possibly can. That doesn't seem to be what's happening. Much of the reporting around Joe Rogan, for example, seemed to initially take delight that he had coronavirus, kind of wanted him to suffer as a result of it, and was deeply cynical about the method of his treatment. As Joe Rogan said in his podcast, he did get better very, very quickly, suggesting that, at least in his case, the course of treatment that he took was effective. But it oughtn't be a political thing. If you're a person who wants to be vaccinated, you should become vaccinated if you're comfortable with the information that you've been given around that subject. If you're a person that doesn't want to be vaccinated, you should be entitled to make your decision. Now, what people, of course, will say is you not being vaccinated will affect other people. Now, I think that's actually a fantastic attitude if you want to consider the way your actions affect other people. And in fact, I would love to see that attitude applied across a whole host of issues, from distribution of wealth, public speech, education, how your personal actions affect others. And if that's not something you're really into, then it's interesting that it's being applied stringently in one area of public and medical life and not others. The sort of rise of authoritarianism around this subject, for me, causes some concern. What I would like to see is open, plain communication and individual liberty and freedom to choose what course of action you want to take. The Oxford text also says there's little evidence from large-scale randomised controlled trials to demonstrate it can speed up recovery from the illness or reduce hospital admission. But to a person who might have a family member suffering from the disease, the information about early promising results will probably be enough to inspire demands for a prescription, which might be a problem, of course. Unless someone was looking for that information, they wouldn't find it, as mainstream news of even the Oxford study has been effectively limited to a pair of Bloomberg and Forbes stories. Unless there's transparency and communication that has good faith behind it, rather than obviously bad faith, it's really easy to assume that there are agendas at play, like that people would prefer you to take a certain course of action, and that preference is not necessarily based on the well-being of people in general, but other incentives. And if what you desire is a positive outcome for everybody, then surely that's coming from a place of kindness, compassion and tolerance. And I recognise compassion, kindness and tolerance when I see it in the way that people communicate, in the kind of their openness and good-heartedness. So I think if you don't understand why people would be cynical about pharmaceutical companies and the government, then I don't think you've been paying attention for the last 20 years. It's clear that there's a degree of circumspection is judicious when dealing with centralised bodies. You only need to look at the legal histories of pharmaceutical companies. Again, I'm not suggesting any course of action for a medical situation. It's not something I feel qualified to deal with for anybody other than myself, and barely even in that instance. But what I will say is that in an environment of outward hostility, judgment, condemnation, good outcomes are difficult to achieve. Ivermectin has suffered the same fate of thousands of other news topics since Donald Trump first announced his run of presidency nearly 6 years ago. Cleaved in two to inhabit separate factual universes for left and right audiences, repurposed drugs generally have a hard time being taken seriously since Trump announced he was on hydroxychloroquine last year. And ivermectin clearly also suffers from its association with Republican senators like Ron Johnson. Still, the drug's publicity issues go beyond the taint of conservative news. The drug has become a test case for a controversy that's long been building in healthcare about how much input patients should have in their own treatment. Well before COVID-19, the medical profession was thrust into a revolution in patients' information inspired by a combination of Google and new patients' rights laws. Should people on their deathbeds be allowed to try anything to save themselves? That seems like an easy question to answer. Should the entire world be allowed to practice self-care on a grand scale? That's a different issue. Some would say absolutely not, while others would say the corruption of pharmaceutical companies and the medical system unfortunately makes it a necessity. The world is increasingly divided along this trust-untrust axis. Interesting and I would say accurate analysis there. So I suppose going forward with coronavirus, with high-profile cases, with the treatment of it or the prevention of it, an attitude of openness and kindness is necessary, of non-judgment, of prioritising science and recognising that science is not free from biases, that science exists within certain economic and financial constraints, with certain economic and financial imperatives. And one way of creating more trust would be the removal of those constraints, the removal of those imperatives, so that true transparency could be achieved. I know you're going to want to join in this conversation, so jump into the comments below, but try to demonstrate this kind of compassion. Try to observe yourself. If you're like, yeah, but I know someone that's had COVID, yeah, but I don't know, watch it. Try to observe the feeling that you're having. Try to observe it. Stay awake, stay conscious. Try to think, why does this provoke this response in me? Why are my emotions so easily punctured, provoked in this way? What is it I'm not owning in myself? What am I projecting? It's interesting to look at that stuff. Sign up to our mailing list if you want more direct communication with me. I'm doing some live stuff this weekend. There's a link in the description to that. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one. And if you want more stuff about awakening and how you can become a more peaceful, at ease person, look at this. Because you don't want to spend your whole time angry and furious, because you have the possibility of being free.
If you're looking for a legit business to start up, to you want to get out of the rat race, you want to don't have a boss, you want to do something on your own, or you just want to pay off bills, this is a legit. I just can't say enough, can't thank Coach Josh enough. You really ought to take a hard look at this and do yourself a favor, get started, and I think you will never ever regret it. Thank you, and have a good day.
Schneider here with some of my most recent bank statements for 2020.
It's Friday morning after the president's speech last night at 5. A lot of American businesses are trying to figure out, okay, I've got more than 100 employees. What am I going to do? Am I going to require the vaccine? Let's talk to one business guy. Ben Shapiro is the host of the Ben Shapiro Show. He's also the editor emeritus of the Daily Wire. Ben, your company's got over 100 employees, so what are you going to do? Are you going to listen to the president? Everybody going to roll up their sleeves, or are you going to take a different approach?
Of course not. We're going to use every method and resource at our disposal to defy the president's unconstitutional order. And this is coming from somebody who's very pro-vaccine. I was vaccinated as soon as possible. I've encouraged everybody to get the vaccine, or pretty much everybody to get the vaccine. And the notion that the federal government has the ability to force every business in America with over 100 employees. By the way, I'm not sure why it's over 100 employees. Theoretically, it should be every business in America because you can get infected anywhere, right? But every business in America with over 100 employees to either force employees to vaccinate or force them to test every require them for the monthly. He said he came into office saying, I'm not going to shut down the economy, I'm not going to shut down the country, I'm going to shut down the virus. He failed to shut down the virus, so now he's going to shut down the economy and the country, apparently.
Well, Ben, they say that he says, Joe Biden, businesses who refuse.
All right, it's getting kind of warm up here. I think I'm about to go chill for a minute. Give it y'all next time. Peace.